You see a lot of things when you work the counter of a medium-end makeup store at the mall. Bridezillas fights over low-quality, high-price limited edition products because so-and-so celebrity endorsed them, teenagers who want to make it big on YouTube, nervous and clueless boyfriends trying to find the products their girlfriends sent them, and forth the works. It's a blend of all of the best and worst parts of retail, in particular, since the products are a step up from the drugstore but still in the realm of what most decently well-off people can afford. One thing you don't see much is a group of early teen boys coming into the store laughing with each other and approaching the mirrors and sample desks. The three that strolled in the summer morning looked more like they were walking around a GameStop than a makeup store, and frankly, it sure seemed like they ought to have been somewhere else. Working today was just me, a 21-year-old college student on a summer gig, on the sales floor, and one of the slightly older employees at the register. It was pretty quiet. The midday shoppers hadn't made their way in yet. Only one or two women were looking around the aisles, and these three totally out-of-place boys. Frankly, as much as I didn't want to care, this probably wasn't great for business. Our customers don't want to be bothered by the kind of potential commotion they could cause, and who knows what they were really up to, or what they could break. No, I had to do something about it, otherwise there could be fallout, and whatever that might be, I didn't want to find out or deal with it. Now truly, they didn't look like the most devious set of kids that age I ever saw. They were skinny, pale-faced and mostly quiet, the kind of kids I would expect to sit still in school and not get in much trouble, by the looks of them at least. They were clustered around one of our end cap mirrors holding what looked like a sample lipstick when I approached them from behind. "Can I help you boys?" I asked in my best retail voice. Not rude, but also clear that I was suspicious. They almost jumped back in surprise, and then paused in shock for just a moment, before one of them stammered back, "No thanks, we're fine. Just getting something for my girlfriend." "Oh really?" I replied, with clear skepticism. Their facade broke faster than I expected, as if they knew the girlfriend story was so unbelievable it couldn't have held up if they dug in. Truthfully, the boys were decently cute for their age, although I would have been a bit surprised to find out one of them really did have a girlfriend. A girl their age probably would have started wearing makeup, but I doubt would trust her 13 to 14-year-old boyfriend to handle buying it for them. After some newly panicked faces emerged, the boy in the back chimed in, bravest of them all. He was short and red-haired, with generous Irish freckles. "He lost a bet and has to wear makeup," he exclaimed, pointing to his blonde, slightly taller friend in front of me. The victim's bright red face at the revelation indicated the claim to be true, and I couldn't help but let out a little chuckle. "You have to wear makeup, huh? How cute!" I responded with a genuine gentleness. To some extent, this would have become the trouble I had feared, boys messing around with the store's stuff and turning customers away. But with a mostly empty mall and some time on my hands, and moreover, the situation pretty much under control, maybe I could have a little fun with it. "Would you like some help with that? I can give you a makeover on the counter over here if you'd like. We'd prefer you not use the store samples on the tables." The blonde very clearly did not want to say yes, but turned to his third friend, the brunette boy, who gave him a strong nod indicating he should. It was a bet after all. "Okay," he said, with a bit of resignation but not overly extreme reluctance. I led the trio over to my little booth and sat the blonde onto the vanity chair. A large mirror with bright lights illuminated his still slightly red face. Seeing no one else in the store, I called over to the girl at the register. "Hey Sharon, I'm going to be busy for just a few minutes. Can you watch the floor for me?" She gave back a thumbs up, and I was good to go. The boy was sitting in the padded chair nervously staring into the mirror while his giddy friends watched from behind. Two beaming faces, excited to see the outcome of their bet, smiled, and one nervous one sat still in the chair. "What's your name?" I asked the nervous blonde boy. He had short boy-style hair, but his features were actually quite soft, actually fairly feminine in a boyish way, if that makes any sense at all. I realized I might actually be able to do something really cute with him, not just in a haha makeup on a boy way, but in a legitimately pretty tween/teen girl kind of way. I now intended to. Sam, he answered. Hi Sam, I'm Victoria. Are you ready? I said back. With a burst of courage, he nodded yes. His friends seemed about to burst at the seams. In the spirit of this bet, I had Sam turn around and face me and his friends rather than the mirror. The lighting was good enough, and I decided it would be better to make his final look a surprise to him. Have you ever worn makeup before? I asked, knowing the most likely answer. No, he answered timidly. Have any of you? I posed to the rest of the group. The other two shook their heads. The brown-haired boy chimed in that his little sister had put something on his face while he was sleeping once, but that was like kids' makeup and wasn't real at all. So this is going to be a learning experience then. That's fine. The first thing we're going to do is apply foundation. This is basically just to even out his skin tone and give us a perfect, smooth canvas to work with. This is probably what the girls your age usually wear. The boys took in the information dutifully. They realized that all of a sudden, and surprisingly, they were getting a free lesson in how girls worked, and would pay rapt attention. One skill you develop working in a makeup store is skin tone estimation, and I had a knack for it. On the first try, I picked a perfect foundation for Sam's light but not super pale skin and began putting small spots on his face, which I then blended out with a makeup sponge. Sam was lucky not to have any acne at his age, and the makeup applied like a charm. He squirmed a little bit as I dragged the sponge across his face, but not enough to prevent me from getting it just how I wanted. The next thing is powder. This keeps his face from shining and fixes the foundation in place. With a big brush I swiped the powder all over Sam's face again, and he seemed shocked at just how soft the brush was. The only brushes he had worked with before were art class paint brushes. He had no idea that the brushes he'd seen his mom use could be so soft. While Sam didn't look horribly different at this point, a girl would certainly see that he was wearing makeup, and the two boys he was with noticed the new evenness of his skin tone and subtle added femininity already. Okay, are you ready to keep going? I asked. Sam nodded. Now we'll do your eyes. You'll have to be very still for this part, okay? I instructed. Okay, he answered. What color should his eyeshadow be? I asked the other two. Pink. No, purple. No, wait, blue, wait, I don't know. The two argued over each other. I think blue was a nice idea. I continued. My goal was not to make Sam a model of a grown woman. He was a teenager, and should end up looking like a teenage girl. Blue eyeshadow would go a long way towards that. While on a grown woman I'd do something more complex and alluring, on Sam, a simple light baby blue covering his entire eyelid was perfect. The other two gawked as the color suddenly appeared on their friend's face. Look at me, I told him, and said to blink a few times. The boys were amazed at how the color appeared and disappeared each time he opened and closed his eyes. Honestly, they probably thought it was quite pretty, especially if they hadn't seen much makeup on girls their age yet. Reevaluating, I decided to do a thin line of black liquid eyeliner, which I very carefully applied just to his top lids. A small wing gave a bit of extra girliness without being overly bold in any way. Finally, I told Sam that we were going to do some mascara on his eyelashes. It would be very important to keep still. Now fully committed to the process, he remarkably let me apply 2 coats of deep black makeup to his upper and lower lashes, making them longer and fuller than they already were. It was so unfair how young boys got to start off with such great lashes already. He probably didn't even need the length, just the color, that's how good his lashes were already. A big smile crept across the brunette boy's face as his friend slowly turned more girly. If anything, I think I saw a hint of jealousy that he was getting so much attention from the makeup counter lady. It's more attention than any of them had probably ever gotten from a pretty older woman in their lives that wasn't their mother. I finished with a generous coat of pink blush, and then needed something for his lips. A pretty pink gloss would be perfect, and I had just the one. Sam giggled lightly, responding to the tickle of the doe foot brush as I swiped the pink substance over his virgin lips. They slowly turned a soft but bright pink tone, perfect for someone his age. And he was done. I turned Sam around to see his final look, and his mouth hung open, shocked at the face in front of him. On the one hand, it was clearly his usual face but in makeup, which was surprising and embarrassing. On the other hand, he was amazed at how genuinely pretty I'd made him become. J.E. was clearly still a boy, given away by the short hair and clothing, a t-shirt and cargo shorts, like the other two as well, but now he had a legitimately pretty face. He couldn't help but touch every part of his new image, licking his lips and taking in the sweet-smelling gloss, blinking his eyes rapidly and feeling the new weight of his big lashes, and turning again to his friends in shock. Hey, hey, hey! You're going to mess up your lips, be careful. I instructed. Sorry. Sam responded coyly, suddenly more demure as if his new appearance also impacted his attitude. Here, I'll touch it up, I said, adding one more slick of the pretty substance onto his now pretty lips. Sam departed the chair with a cautious, thank you, repeated by the other boys too. Sam and the ginger boy started to walk away, the ginger one audibly saying, "Bro, you look so crazy," but the brunette stayed in place for just one extra second. Mustering up some extra courage, he must have shocked his friends when he asked me, "Wait, can I have some too?" Really? I asked. I thought your friend over there was the one that lost the bet. Yeah, but I almost lost, he answered, trying to dig up whatever the most reasonable explanation could be. I understood what was going on. I answered his question. Well, usually the makeovers are complimentary for customers who buy something. I kind of just did Sam for free because it was a unique situation. But I hung on the "but" for an extra moment. I guess if you were to go and buy something we could do too. Here's an idea. Why don't you go and pick out a lipstick in that aisle over there? Find something you really like, and then go over to the counter and buy it. Once you come back, I'll get you all prettied up. The ginger boy probably couldn't believe what he was hearing. His other friend suddenly wanted his makeup done? Crazy. But Sam was more than elated to have someone else be in his shoes too. I've got some money in my wallet, we can split it if you want. Sam offered generously. The brunette smiled, and the trio, two eager boys and one very confused boy, advanced to the lipstick section, where I watched them compare colors and make suggestions and argue as if they were arguing over a baseball card. It was the strangest music to my ears I'd ever heard. As they approached Sharon to go and pay, I heard a sudden excited shriek. Overcome by surprise, she couldn't help but share a joyful, slightly snorting laugh too upon seeing Sam's face, and the boys buying a ruby red lipstick together. Regaining her composure, Sharon assured the boys her laughter was only out of surprise, since Sam actually looked very good and I had done a great job. They took solace in the clarification. After paying, the trio reapproached my makeup stand and the brunette handed me his selection as he authoritatively sat in the chair like Sam had prior. He had made a nice choice. High quality, beautiful color. He probably didn't realize how long it would stay on for, but it wasn't on me to tell him. And your name is? I asked. David. All right, David, let's get started. As I began applying his foundation, I whispered gently into David's ear, "Let me guess, this whole bet thing was your idea, wasn't it?" He nodded, very slightly. Only enough to indicate to me a yes, and not give anything else away or potentially smudge my work. It all made sense. The only boys who suggest a bet with the punishment of wearing makeup are boys who secretly want to lose that bet and wear makeup. It's all about just having an excuse to do it. If anything, this was probably a double win for him, since he got to see his friend get made up and go through the most awkward parts first. David had more masculine features than Sam did, but nothing I couldn't work around. With a bit of contouring, I was able to conceal some of the manly parts of his appearance and bring out the girly ones, leaving an imperfect, but much improved apparent face shape. From there, I did much the same as I did on Sam. However, David got a shimmery pink eyeshadow instead of Sam's baby blue. When it came time for his lips, I could tell David was getting excited, and he very eagerly assumed the mouth half-open position so that I could apply it before I even asked him to. I drew up the vibrant tube and held his chin lightly as I applied the bright red product onto his upper and lower lips, slightly overlining since his were a bit naturally thin. I traced a pretty cupid's bow onto the top to give them a completely girly shape, and let him press his lips together for an even coat, and to see where the smudges were. Finally, I touched up a few parts with a bit of extra lipstick and cleaned up the edges, leaving a stunningly gorgeous gleaming mouth on the newly prettified boy. It was honestly probably too old of a look for him, but he didn't care, and neither did his friends, who were still a bit shocked he signed up to have that done to him. "How do I look?" he asked the crowd. "Beautiful, darling," I said with a weird fake accent, and let his friends take over shouting their amazement. Now a really funny thing happens with boys, and I can't say exactly why, but let's just say social pressure is a powerful thing. When no one is doing the embarrassing thing, you certainly don't want to be the one to do it. That is, by definition, embarrassing. But when everyone is doing the embarrassing thing, suddenly, it feels worse to be left out than to be doing it too. Otherwise, people wonder why you weren't bold, or interesting, or part of the group enough to have done it with them. The red-haired boy clearly started feeling the pressure, and probably hated his predicament, but realized that the other boys would probably get a lot of attention for their get-ups, and he didn't want to be left out of that attention. Obviously reluctantly, but confidently nonetheless, he asked if I would do him too. And that's when I hatched my most devious plan. I was just having too much fun, and I wanted to see how far I could push it. At that moment, a few customers walked into the store, and I noticed it starting to get busier as lunchtime rolled around and the mall began to fill. The other two boys were clearly invested in their friend joining them in their made-up state, and so I told them the following: "I would love to, but unfortunately, we're starting to get more customers, and those customers might not like it if we're out here doing makeovers on boys. We might lose their business. Sorry, I can't do it, or I might get in trouble." This was a part lie and part truth. I was supposed to make choices which helped the business, and it was truthful that I didn't think the ladies who patronized us would love to see us using our sample products on men, even the more liberal patrons. But it's not like there was a rule against it. I just wanted to try something. "I'll give you boys an option though, if you want to hear it," I offered. "What is it?" they all asked in different wordings at the same time. "If you can come in wearing something girly, like a dress, then no one would know you weren't girls, right? There's a Forever 21 right across the way. Why don't you go get something cute to wear, and then I'll do his makeup?" I still cannot believe they took that offer seriously, but I knew David would want to push for the idea, and honestly, Sam was super chill and would probably do it just to get his friend in on the action. And so they left. I don't know exactly what happened after they left my store, and after an hour, I figured they had given up and gone home. I had overplayed my hand, and missed out on a little bit of fun doing the third one, but that was all right. Worth the risk. And then 3 teenage boys walked into my store once again, and I couldn't believe what I saw. Sam was wearing a super cute blue and white floral pattern sundress which fell to his knees, and a black headband over his blonde hair. His blue eyeshadow looked adorably cute, shaded by beautiful black lashes, a hint of black eyeliner, and shiny, pretty pink lips. He looked, both surprisingly and unsurprisingly, completely adorable. Surprising because I couldn't believe he did it, and unsurprising because I knew while doing his makeup that he'd make a very pretty girl. I have no idea how David managed to convince his friends to let him do it, but he wore a straight-cut pretty pink mini dress and looked like a teenage boy Barbie doll with his bright red lips, pink eyeshadow, and borderline sexy pink dress. It was modest enough for a young teenager to wear, but probably sexy by their standards, at least. He had a pink headband in his hair as well. And finally, with no makeup to match to, the red-haired boy wore a green velvet skater dress with a black sash acting as a belt across the waist. If it were cooler out, the outfit would have looked perfect with some black tights, but I couldn't ask for any more. Almost as shocking as the now girly parts of them were the parts that weren't. They all still had their sneakers on. In some Forever 21 bags they had stuffed their old clothes, now wearing their purchases. I invited the three in, absolutely giddy at the situation, and got to doing the redhead's makeup. His name was Michael, I discovered, and the three were all students at the high school I used to attend. I'll tell you what, boys never did that kind of thing when I attended, but if they had, I would have been all over it. Michael's freckles were so pretty on their own I couldn't bear to cover them up, but for the sake of giving him the full works, I did his foundation anyway with as low coverage of a formula as I could find, and then added some fake freckles with a brown eyeliner over the top, just to make sure they were still there. He more than earned himself some light green eyeshadow, with a bit of black on the outer corner for a faux smoky eye look, and I left his red lashes to speak for themselves. Given his paleness, some brick-colored blush was in order, and on his lips I used the same tube they had bought as a group a little while ago, giving him luscious, full, perfect ruby red lips like his friend. 3 boys had come into my store that morning and 3 fake girls had left, with full faces of makeup and new pretty dresses. I bet David was pretty happy with how it all went, but Sam and Michael didn't seem upset at all either. I think they all had some fun trying something they'd never done, and probably wouldn't because of the social stigma. They were good kids. And as they left the place, I realized 2 things. First, that I had inadvertently created the Powerpuff Girls on this random summer morning. They didn't have superpowers, except for a remarkable confidence and willingness to put themselves out there, I guess. And second, I just wondered what they would do with themselves now. Would they buy some pretty shoes to complete the outfit? Discover a fetish or hobby they didn't know they had and pursue it further? I couldn't say. But the rest of the day I couldn't help but keep a smile on my face as I helped the usual bridezillas, aspiring beauty gurus, and awkward boyfriends.